So welcome everybody, welcome to this little summit exploring sensitivity and all the way being a sensitive human being intersects with every single area of our life. And today I have the honor of introducing you to my teacher, my inspiration, and a wonderful, wonderful man on this planet, Jamie Wollrab. Welcome, Jamie.
All right, so good, fun to be here.
I welcomed you onto and was really excited to have this conversation with you because I know you've done a lot of deeply personal work around what it means to be an empowered man in your wholeness, in your heart, walking on this planet, and that you teach this and share this in so many different ways in the world. And I'm looking forward to unfolding something that's extremely painful and yet has so much potential, and that is how to be sensitive, vulnerable, heart connected, and empowered, and a man.
God, how much time do we have? Because like I took a long time. Yeah, that's the $1 million question. It really is. So where do we begin? I always honor my teachers, and this man that I've been working with and following for the past 6 years, John Wineland. So I've done copious amounts of work privately, also in his men's work, and also in couples work, so where the masculine and the feminine relate to one another. And so I think a nice portal is the way in. Something that he mentioned that speaks to me on such a level, that the masculine and the feminine nervous system, like, we're denser. Our bodies are denser. So to me, what might be, so say when you and I work together, I might take something, my nervous system might take something at a 2 or a 3, and to your system might be a 7 or an 8. And for us to be able to gauge with each other, and I actually see this so often as an acting coach and a voice coach, in the confusion where somebody's like, what, I barely didn't. And then someone's like, oh my God, there's this interaction. And I think that if we, actually have, there was a great meme I saw recently, the difference between equanimity and equality. And one was there these three people looking over a fence, and equality was a small, middle and short person trying to look over a fence on a bench. And equanimity is somebody on a stool and a footstool and the ground, and the tall person's on the ground and the middle person's on the stool. So actually kind of being able to feel in the field, like, okay, so for me, it might be only a 3, and for you it's a 7. But if I'm knowing that, and I know that you're just a little bit more sensitive, and I have the responsiveness to feel into you, I might even pull back for me to a 1 or a 2.
Right.
So that interaction, even my voice, any kind of connection, so then it comes back to maybe just a 4 for you of intensity. And that doesn't make anyone wrong. That doesn't make anyone, shamed, but that we're just different. We're all equal, but we're different, and our nervous systems just handle things differently. And that kind of respect and being able to, so I remember when I was in a tantric workshop, we would just have our hands on somebody's back, and we would, the feminine partner would say, kind of Goldilocks, like, it's too much, or no, that's not enough. Okay, that's right. And then our nervous system goes, oh, that's interesting. It's almost like holding an egg. I barely have to do anything to make this person feel supported. But how are we supposed to know if we're not getting in the arena and practicing the kind of finding the right note to be effective in that sensitivity? And I think that these spaces and these practice rooms are important, these gymnasiums in a way of being able to practice our sensitivity in a real way. And that's very, very important to me, because if we're just like, oh, we're sensitive, or we're too sensitive, but we don't apply it, and not being shamed for doing something wrong or too much, because I would like to think that most people that are in this conscious work are really doing their best. And if I
Yeah.
have in my mind that they're doing their best and they mess up, how can we come into this space and be a positive way of teaching in a way so that somebody isn't like, I'm a bad person, or I'm wrong because somebody's sensitive and somebody, makes an action towards somebody but doesn't know. What are we supposed to do? And I love what John does in his practice is that he'll actually bring people up and reveal this in front of a group and see, do you see what he may have been thinking? And we go, do you see how she felt that? And then there's usually a collective moment where both the men and the women go, oh, God, I got it.
Right.
Got it. Oh, he didn't mean it, or she's not crazy and he's not a jerk. Like I think those labels are so easy. And I think having sensitivity, it comes with feeling misunderstood.
Absolutely. I love the way you've straight away brought it into a really practical and applied way of exploring inside relationship sensitivity. And that's something that I love about your work, Jamie. And I want to just take a moment for anyone who doesn't know Jamie, and I want to come back to this just to introduce you a little to him. He's a leading voice coach. He's a director and an actor. He's a leading figure in Los Angeles. And he also has a rich history in studying men's work and is starting his own new men's program later this year.
Thank you.
Do you want to add a little bit more to that, Jamie? Do you want to
Just
fluff that out?
my years of voice work, and that's where you and I are working on, is Linklater, and working with Stuart Pearce and Nancy Mayans, and public speaking and voice work for the actors. So that's been a specialty of mine. And I think such a nice segue into this topic. I really feel through my work in voice, is such an amazing way to convey sensitivity and power. And even as I'm on the call with you right now, knowing you and your sensitivity and also your power, that it's so interesting. I find my voice going softer and quieter, and I speak more wide instead of at people. And I think that having a great voice work and a power over our own voice is a way to integrate our sensitivity and ground it.
Right. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you're demonstrating how you can have an awareness of your sensitivity, and you can use that as a way of respecting the sensory awareness of the other person.
Correct. Yes.
So before we dive into being a man and being sensitive on a kind of more broader topic, could you talk a little bit about what it's like for you to be as sensitive? And I imagine it's also really useful in the many different kinds of work that you do.
Ask that again. Sorry, so my head went into 10 different places. So, which ask the,
like? Yeah, I'm going to ask that again, Jamie.
Yeah. Yes.
What's it like for you to be a sensitive person?
Oh my goodness. Man, you're asking me these such rich questions. I would have, if it weren't today, I've really come into something really beautiful recently. I've really have come into my power and into my seat in a way that I haven't I'm 43. So really in the last couple of weeks, months, something's happened, something's clicked. And I've realized that my sensitivity has been my superpower. In my years, my teenage years and being little was very hard. I felt like I was, kind of crazy. Being sensitive in that way, I would hear things and I would feel things of what was the subtext of something. And then it was like being gaslit my whole life, where I'd hear obviously I'd hear the words that somebody would say, but I would feel what they were really saying. That's why I love voice work. I love the subtext. That's why I love acting. Complication of saying the word and the meaning being the opposite. And that's how we can watch movies in subtitles. And I just finished this great show on Netflix called Dark. It's in German. And I could basically stop reading the subtitles because I knew what they were saying, even though I don't speak German. So having that sensitivity, I'm listening to the energy, I'm listening to the body language, I'm listening to the tone, the intonation, and I would feel like I was sort of an alien, if that makes any sense. Like it was like, I know and as I've developed the strength over time and I've grounded and I've really have come into my own truth, being a sensitive man, it's almost like a Venn diagram now, where I have my own reality and nobody can shake my reality. Yeah. And I can come into a liminal space and be in somebody else's reality and then go, okay, I'm going to open up this Venn diagram where we cross and be able to hear feedback, being able to go, oh, that's interesting. Imago dialogue is an amazing way. I can get further into what imago dialogue is. So being a sensitive man, when I share my feelings now, I really practice not projecting, for instance. You did this to me, right? You're mean, or, you're a Trump supporter, so you're terrible. And instead, I've learned how to have a dialogue. So I'm able to say to my partner and to people that I really care about in my life that I'm vulnerable with, I'm able to say things like, I have a story that when you did this X thing, that you weren't respecting me. Is that true? I'm making up that when you do blank, you are actually really are mad at me. Is that true? So I've learned to honor my experience and also because I'm sensitive, but I'm also open to dialogue to hear where they're coming from without making them wrong. So this is my experience, and then sometimes, especially when it comes to my partner, she's like, well, I am mad at you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm glad we're in agreement. That's what I was thinking. But we get to really deep places because I'm owning my own experience and I'm open to hearing where they're coming from and feeling where we can meet in a shared reality. That to me is my sensitivity. If it's not grounded, my sensitivity can turn into paranoia. My sensitivity can be, I can make up a lot. It can bring anxiety. Now my sensitivity is a superpower because it's mine and mine alone. And if I choose to open myself, I better be grounded and I better own my language in a way that doesn't make the world wrong. And I also, being a sensitive man, I go in the masculine, and I actually practice masculine work. I need time alone. I just went away to the mountains in Malibu for 3 days and turned off my phone. No social media, no media. Even with my partner, other than emergency, I needed to, Esther Perel talks about this, like we need distance. So that's part of my of being a sensitive man. I need time alone. And what's amazing is having those boundaries. I'm also huge into Al-Anon and Coda, and I've done the steps there. Is I realize that all I have power over this is stoicism as well, my thoughts and my actions. everything else is out of my control. It's basically living the serenity prayer is the model to being a sensitive person in the world. It sounds overly simplistic, but it's true. God, universe, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage, which is the rest of the world, the courage to change the things I can, which is me, and the wisdom to know the difference. So if I'm being sensitive and I'm then in a battle with things I can't control, my practice is to let those things go, as hard as it may be.
Wow, Jamie, you have spoken about so many beautiful, rich, and deeply personal things there. It was very touching. And I have like about 5 things I'd love to ask you a question about. But, but I want to ask you just a couple of things because they really stood out to me. One was you said, I'm in my own reality. And the way you said that as a sensitive person, I have my reality and then I can zone in on yours. But what the thing that struck me about that was that in order to have such a strong sense of this is my reality, you've gone through a process to like really claim that and own that, and you trust your reality and you trust the signals and the information and what's coming to you through your sensitivity, so that this is a very solid inner world.
Yes. And that for me, this is just my story, I had to be sober. I've been sober coming up on 11 years, and I had to be sober for me. Alcohol, substances, drugs distorted my reality, which is great. It probably saved my life. You know, when I had an abusive childhood, so, and a neglectful childhood, and the drugs and the alcohol worked as much as they could. And I had to detox out of that for a couple of years. Then, you know, I'm a huge advocate of the 12 steps. And what's so nice today, having done the steps, I live with a clean conscience. I've probably made 80 or 90 amends to other people. And it doesn't mean I've apologized. Like, I've amended my behavior, I've amended who I am, and I've reached out, how can I make this right? As small as some of these things have been. And so I get to live with a clear conscience. That had, for me, that's not for other people, but I had to be sober. So that's a huge part of owning my reality. And then that led me to men's work. Now I'm working with a gut doctor and on my own health. And I realized I had some gut stuff, yeast, and I've 3 months in and I've never felt better. Like, my gut health, I've never felt more clear mentally. I just got my blood work back and it's virtually perfect. Like, I'm so blessed. So I'm clearing my gut. I exercise every day. I practice Kundalini yoga every day. I journal every day. I do my 12-step work. So it sounds like a lot, but it's actually not. It's a privilege. So my morning is writing, practice, and exercise. The rest of the day is downhill. But I have to prep. You know, they say in 12 steps, even with 10 years, it's one day at a time. So these are things, so it's just like if I were a diabetic, I need my insulin. So my recovery is a part to get me right-sized. I'm not above anyone, I'm not below anyone. Basically, I'm the only one who can ruin my day. And I've succeeded in that plenty of times. But it is, what's my favorite line, one of my favorite lines, it's Hamlet. He said, there is neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. So if I'm clear in my mind, I'm clear in my thoughts. I've had some crazy, terrible things happen recently. The world it's happening, and as I'm thriving like I've never thrived in chaos, because I bring my focus back to what I have control over every day. That's it. And I feel like a pillar. And so all these people, this magnet, and people are coming to me to help them. And I'm like, the stuff I'm doing is the stuff that's been around for thousands of years.
Right. And what I'm hearing you say is that you nourish your soul, your sensitivity, your health, and your well-being. You make that a priority, and that's the way that allows you to be very magnetic and powerful. And I hope everyone who's enjoying this interview, that you can feel the power that Jamie's talking about, even as we're kind of in a very relaxed way having a conversation, because it's this way that when you own your sensitivity and the gifts and that kind of soul, you allow your soul to come through your body, and Jamie's kind of like resonating with it.
Oh, thank you. I received that. And I'm learning how to receive compliments too. Because,
Good.
oh, I'm going to give this guy a shout out. There's a guy named, you would love him. His name is Christian Pinkhurst, and he's English, and he has this place in Amsterdam. I went there, and he was part of a men's group called Heart IQ. And I remember he gave me feedback once, and I'll always remember, it was beautiful feedback. And he said, Jamie, you are collectively wired. And I am. I have an open system. I love, somebody asked me to come and talk. I'm 12-step. I take calls. I'm an extrovert. I'm collectively wired. And he said, if we're going to be sensitive to hearing the bad stuff, he said, you might as well be collectively wired to hear the good things. So part of being sensitive is also to train ourselves to hear the compliment, to receive the praise, to be open to it. But we're sensitive, but this is my story. But I think that sometimes people are sensitive to the negativity.
Absolutely. That's a heightened critic in when you're a highly sensitive person, that starts with the criticism very young.
Yes. But I'm like, well, sensitivity also has the flip side to that coin, which is pleasure, joy. So there's a great book called Buddha Brain, which is that the negative is 5 times more easily believed in our neurology than the positive. So we have to actually, affirmations, mantra, hear the compliments. So as you gave me that wonderful compliment, I've had to train myself to soften my heart. I'm sensitive. Open it. And what a privilege to be sensitive, to then be able to fully imbibe and receive the good. So if we have sensitivity, we might as well take the good with it, not just the bad, right? So being sensitive isn't a scarlet letter, you know. It is equally we live in a dual universe, and so the positive is just as important as the negative when it comes to sensitivity. So we might as well bask in it.
Beautiful. I'm just taking in the resonance of that. So beautiful. So in many ways, you've kind of answered many of my own questions to you about what it's like to be sensitive. And so I was curious, I wanted to ask you and kind of go more from like the personal, a little bit more into the world of being a man and what you see and experience out there around men in the world. Because one of the things that happens for men is that, especially men that are sensitive or creative, soulful in some kind of ways, that they often feel that there's this discrepancy between who they know themselves to be inside, like you're their inner world, in the way you were talking about their inner world, and the way they're supposed to be, air quotes, you know, a more kind of tough, non-feeling, maybe more disconnected or not showing your heart. And that's presented a real challenge for men, and I would say our entire culture.
I mean, I could talk about that. It's so interesting. It's what my men's group is going to be about, because there's the 4 major male masculine archetypes, which is the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. And what you're talking about, how I interpret it, is the archetypes of the magician and the lover, which happen to be 2 of my stronger archetypes that I've had most of my life. I've spent years then developing my warrior and just really stepping into my king. But for those archetypes to be cultivated, men need men. In my view, this is just what I needed, and everyone has their own path. But in my view, men need men. And what's so nice of the men's group that I'm in, and I've learned this through John and through my dear friend Amir, the love of men. And again, this is you know, I'm mostly speaking for heterosexual, but it doesn't at all have to pertain to just that. Is that men love us through a men's group, but they don't want anything from us. That's what's so liberating, to be in a circle of men going like, I love you, I don't want anything from you. And the world, how I view the world, is feminine. My clients are feminine. My partner is feminine. My son is maybe he's feminine. So we're constantly burdened, and most men that I know, they're burdened, and it's very, very hard to express our emotions and be burdened at the same time. So having a circle of men, being able to go crying with another man, to being trusting another man to be able to cry in front of them, and it's hard because we're coming from a culture where we've raised boys to not cry.
Yes.
We've told them that emotions are bad. Don't be a sissy. If you're, you know, we've traumatized boys to be soldiers, to be not have a heart, just grin and bear it, don't cry. And what's ironic is that I find today the men that cry, see cry, are the strongest men I know.
Yes.
So we can be fierce and loving at the same time. So the strength that we develop through the yoga that I practice with John and the men's work, it's to be sensitive, we also have to be grounded. And if we're grounded and we're rooted, that's how we open our hearts. So I think what people criticize is the crying when it's the victim. They're like, hey, toughen up, blah, blah, blah. And what they're trying to do, and it's terrible leadership, is that they're trying to get them in action. And what we've lost for these boys that are growing up is initiation, to feel like they're connected to something, to feel like there's a purpose, that there's a community, that they have a way of action, they have tradition. And we've lost all of that. We've lost that. So what I see so often is when people are crying is because they're lost. And so what I love, there's nothing more powerful for me than a man in a group where we're breathing and we're holding a yoga pose, a chi generator, and then we're bringing this fierceness, and the heart's open and tears are streaming down our face, but there's a vitality to it, and that's an art. That takes art. And I'm 6 years into this work, and I'm just starting to grasp it. And I wish, and this is what I hope and what I'm going to give my son, but it's because I didn't learn any of this until I was 37 years old. And this is where I think for thousands of years, a great book called Iron John by Robert Bly, we've lost this in our culture. We've lost like training boys to have emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And I think that has to come back. The things I'm learning in my 30s and 40s, I'm like, why aren't we teaching this in school? Nonviolent communication about emotions, it's math and science and English, but we're not talking about how to treat the feminine, or especially the feminine within ourselves. And the things that I'm learning now, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I learned this 30, 40 years ago.
I know, and I myself grew up in a place where men were fiercely not allowed to show and have any of their inner life revealed, or to show that they were sensitive. And as a child growing up in rural Australia, I could feel the agony of that. And also as a child, I missed that leadership from men around me. And it wasn't all men, but in general, like as I circulated in my wider community, I needed that in the men around me. I needed to feel their heart as well as their strength.
I was saying this to a dear friend who's we teach together. She's a woman. She does a lot of divine feminine work. And I said, what it's taken a lot, and also capacity. Here's the other work thing about sensitivity. For the masculine, it's about capacity. If we don't have capacity, our sensitivity will overtake us. So we're sensitive, but if we're not breathing, we don't have space around our heart and our lungs. If we don't have capacity, we'll blow our circuits. So what was I saying to her? Is that what it's taken me years to develop, now in my 40s, is to be fierce and loving and conscious at the same time. So I'm conscious. I'm also fierce, and my heart's open. So I'm open in my mind, in my heart, and in my sexuality. And that takes space and time of breath to have my Buddha belly open, heart open, third eye open. Because I've seen a lot of men who can be fierce. We see it all over the time, all over the place. We see then sometimes they're loving, but there's no consciousness. So it's an art just like anything. But to have the space to be able to go, so if I'm sensitive and I breathe like this, I'm not breathing, as opposed to I'm sensitive and I can breathe my whole torso. And I'm feeling why. David Ada talks about this. Like I'm open, my heart's open, and I'm aware of the room around me. I'm aware of my chair. My heart's open and I'm feeling, not just feeling the emotion, I'm actually sensorially feeling the space with emotion. What else is there? So sensitivity with direction is bliss.
It is, yeah.
Sometimes sensitivity comes when sensitivity mixes with confusion. Ooh, that's nightmare fuel. But sensitivity coming with, oh, I'm all the way in Australia right now. My feeling, I'm in those trees behind you. And my heart's open, even in the future of when people are watching or listening to this, I'm feeling them. And they're bringing them my heart through space and time. That's consciousness. Does it make sense?
Totally. I'm just sitting here blissing out, because when you connect into your body and your breath and your sensitivity, and then you sense into the room, you create this really big, powerful space that I'm able to enter and experience with you. And that as a sensitive person, my body can experience and track that and receive that with you. And it's very compelling.
Mm-hmm. Well, how I've learned this through my wonderful teachers. Again, some people call it alpha and omega, and some people call it masculine and feminine. This has absolutely nothing to do with gender at all. It's really physics in a way, and the masculine is space and time, consciousness, death. It's the negative space, and to develop, and I believe men and women should develop a healthy masculine to be sort of the master of space and time of what I'm coaching. So I'm the master of space and time. And the feminine is, so the masculine is what's going to bring the most consciousness throughout this time together. And the feminine is what brings the most love and energy in the moment. So you, Myree, have such beautiful feminine intuition, heart. So there's a great chemistry of holding time and space, and then that, you feel that invitation to then fill it with your presence and your energy. And that to me, there's nothing better than that. For that, to do that within myself, and then to do that with those that are in my sphere. And I get to be, when I work with my teachers and coaches, and I do this with my partner sometimes, I'm the feminine, where I'm like, I don't know how to do it. Help me. Oh, I'm tired. Like, I get to play the game with Kelly. Like, I hate the computer. I hate this. I was trying to do it with my driver's license recently. And I was just said to her, like, will you handle this? And like, I don't know how. So, and she's like, I've got this, I've got it. And David Data said the person who is more skilled at something of an activity should be in the masculine at that point.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. And so there, I'm the better driver, so I drive. And then so she's the better cook. I'm the better making of the plans. And so being able to have the sensitivity and humility to know when I'm not good at something, to be able to go, I'm not good at this. Would you help me? Yeah, I've got this. Or I'm feeling, one of my favorite things is that when I'm not like superior men, I kind of give myself a number. It's like right now I feel great. I'm a 9. I feel really good. There's days where I'm a 2 or a 3 in my sensitivity. I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling, I'm vain. I feel fat or whatever. And so my partner will ask me to do something. I'm like, I'm really a 3 right now. Really not all there. I mean, I'll do what you want me to do. I just want you to know that I'm real low energy right now. And 99% of the time I get the most kind and loving thing back. And they're like, don't do it until you're a 7, you're above a 7. We can talk that way to each other. But like, that sensitivity, that's what we call husbanding or unfeminine. It's like, I'm feeling really fragile right now. And to name it and say it, when I'm very lucky that I'm not often in that space, but when I am, I have absolutely no qualms saying it. I can't be strong all the time.
I love that, and I think that's so important, and you're modeling it right now. It's that you have space and you've cultivated self-love so that there's space for fragility, low energy, insecurity. Those things are also welcomed, and they can be talked about and communicated shamelessly.
Yes.
Right? That these are normal human things, and as a man, I don't have to hide them, especially from the people that I love the most.
But I get to be masculine because I give it a number. I'm a 3.
Right, that's right. I'm being directive.
I'm a 3 right now, so it was oh man, yeah. I have this son, and he's this amazing Tasmanian devil, and he's like all day, just screaming. Not because he's mad, he's just like so excited to be alive and here. And there's moments where it's just like both Kisha and I, we're like, it's like Jack from The Incredibles, and we both go, here, you take him, and we're like, all right, we have to spell each other. Then we come back and we see the fried eyes. We're like, I need to lie down for 30 minutes. All right, pass and dates. We had to have numbers, or we would just go shoot ourselves.
So talking about your beautiful son, what are some of the things that you really want to support him in and share with him as he grows into a boy and then a teenager and a young man? What do you hope to support, nourish, keep alive, make possible for him? What's your dream?
That he will never have to apologize for what he feels. I had this really powerful experience recently with a friend. And so whenever he cries, I never shush him. I never, sometimes it'll be, that, but it's sometimes I'll cry with him. So I'll be like, ah, and I will like mirror him, and I'm like, like, and it's playful. And as soon as I cry with him, he kind of looks at me and he starts to smile. And I was telling my friend this was a Russian ballerina, and she started crying. She's like, I was always shamed or stop crying, even as a baby, and what that did to her nervous system. And what I'm just noticing with Jones, and I can't protect him from everything in the world, but to be able to know that his sensitivity and his emotions are welcome always. There will be, any good Pia Melody, John Bradshaw, child of an alcoholic kind of stuff. It's that there will be learning healthy shame, which will be don't pull the cat's hair, and and don't don't play with the sockets, or there will be things where it'll be we can work on your actions of that's not very nice, or that's this, can you see why this is, and talk them through the moment. And that he's never, what it was, I love that. Guilt is that we did something wrong, and shame is that we are wrong. And my goal and my partner's goal is to raise him without toxic shame. If I can do that then, but to learn healthy shame, and to have the sensitivity to be able to go, John said this to me once, and I could still cry talking about it. He said, it's not your fault. And I was just like bawling on the floor. And but it is your responsibility. It's not your fault that you were raised, and this is what happened to you, and this is the kind of cards you were dealt. But it is your responsibility to do something about it. And those two sentences as a parent is, I love you. What you feel is welcome and loved, and I'm here for it. And I'm going to help forge and cultivate your actions. And you're going to mess up, you're going to fall down, but you are never bad. I really wish I learned that growing up. And being a child of an alcoholic in an alcoholic home, I thought was all blurry. Yeah. And having clarity and having language now with amazing teachers and amazing books. And I'm so grateful for the path that I've had. And he's going to have his own trials. But absolute support, but also holding him to a standard of his actions, and the rest, whatever. Yeah, that's what I'm passing on to him. And that's what I've given my inner child, which is so interesting because now I have a son, and it's like, oh, I feel like I've met you before because I've been doing this inner child work for about 10 years, and now I get to go, oh, well, I'll just do that with him. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And you named something so important that I think is very wounding for men, and it's the toxic shaming of whether it's their creativity, their compassion, their connection to nature, their sensing beauty, being quiet at times.
Yeah. Yeah, the magician lover archetype is just as alive in men as it is in women. And it's so interesting when I see men cultivate that without shame. The way they treat the feminine is so, when you honor the feminine within yourself, you become the protector of the feminine in the world.
Wow, can you say more about that? That is so important.
Yeah, I see the men, and I'm not perfect. I've made plenty of mistakes with the feminine in my life, and I still do it weekly. But honoring the feminine within myself, which is my own sensitivity, my own energy, my own creativity, when that's squelched, and I see that in men, that they wish that they could be, was it Hitler was a frustrated artist?
Yes.
he didn't, we're just like, wow, man, if you just let him into art school, the whole world might have been different, you know? And if we're either creating or we're destroying. And I see that so many bullies or so many men that didn't get to be able to be creative or be the dancer or be the, I even remember myself going, I was really into theater growing up. And there was so much peer pressure to not be in choir. I was in choir and theater. And I had so much shame about it. And I was also playing football, lacrosse, and in basketball, and wrestling. And I was one of those weird Renaissance people that I was like, I liked the sports, and then I was in the chess team. It was very bizarre. But I remember going to theater and kind of going, not fitting in there and not wanting to tell anyone that I was a theater major or wanted to be a theater major, because I wanted to be the jocks. Those were the cool people. And I see that changing. I do see that changing now. But there was a part of me that when I was just so vulnerable to share, when I was just doing football and I didn't get to go out to the play because I was afraid of the peer pressure, I was a bully. I was mean to the people that were doing the arts because I was jealous. I was jealous. I ended up making amends. I did the whole thing, and I was like, oh man, really? Because I wanted to do it. And I wonder, there's just so many like kind of right-wing people. I'm like, you know, do you need a hug? Like, just need a hug? Like, you know, like what, you know, do you need some, it's so sad because I see them get in, was it like the Nazis, like the neo-Nazis, and it's they pick on they pick up the insecure ones that come in. There's not usually a whole person that enters into a hate group, and I think that's important, that we're more inclusive. That's why I love AA. Is I'll take any call. Like, be inclusive. Like, we're here. There's a seat for you, and I want to help create a more inclusive society, because it's the exclusiveness and the closed system where you're either with us or against us. That kind of sensitivity of what's weird. If you're trans, if you're of another race, then you're the outsider. And we don't see, I don't know if, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but I remember it was the 2016 election. It was Purina. I don't know if it was a dog, it was something with dogs. And there was people with a Democrat shirt going and walking around a Republican convention, going with a leash, going, I've lost my dog. I've lost my dog. And all these people are like, oh, well, they were so nice to each other, going, where's your dog? She lost her dog. And then the same thing with someone in a Republican shirt was at a Democratic convention going, you know, I've lost my dog. Have you seen my dog? And it was like, nobody saw the shirts. They went, soon as they, like, you meet dog lovers, it was like, we're so much more in common rather than the things that are apart. And if that's where we're meeting, that kind of sensitivity, it almost doesn't matter what the difference is. You talk about people who love my dog just was put down recently, and that's why I'm thinking about it. When I put it on Facebook, he was such a sweet, sweet, sweet dog. People that I hadn't heard from for years shared there. I'm like, God, it's just so interesting the ways that people, like, they'll open up to an animal that they won't open up to a person.
Right.
It was so beautiful. It was just such a beautiful moment going, wow, that is a cold person that is like totally icy. It was like, oh, Jamie, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm like, I haven't heard from you in 10 years, but because it was a dog. Where are we finding the sensitivity to meet people where their heart's open?
Right.
That just takes the ability to just fucking, excuse my language, but just fucking listen. There's so much common ground, and I'm kind of dedicated my life to that. So I love theater. I love being in this as a director and a theater director, as an actor, and we're all in the room sharing in this experience. And oh, one last thing I'll say about that. There's an amazing director that I worked with named Kim Rubenstein. And she, there's a play called Oleana by David Mamet. And this is sort of off topic, but it's to this point about sensitivity and masculinity, toxic masculinity, and toxic femininity. In this play, it's a two-hander, and it was with a male teacher and a young woman, his student. And in the play, and it was done at this, and this teacher, Kim Rubenstein, she went to the Steppenwolf where it originated. So I think it was with William H. Macy and I think Rebecca Pigeon. So the play is, you don't know if he assaulted her or didn't assault her. So it's up for debate. And she then goes in and like ruins his life and gets him fired. And this play happens. And there's no easy answer at the end of this play. And like, it was like, you know, people walk into the theater and she, you know, whatever. And it's like, most plays are bad. And I remember the director saying, it was like, you could hear a pin drop by the end of the play. And the men, mostly the men, had their view of what happened. And she did this. And the women had their view that it was like this. And I'm like, what an amazing piece of art that to write something that we're open to having this dialogue and the sensitivity and knowing that we can't help but be prejudiced from our own worldview, but be open to art or discussion or practice to being able to be wrong. And the years I did it, the time I did it at the Meadows, they said to us that, which is a recovery center, they said, with the way our brain works, there's only about 4% of our neurology that are the ability to change, that can actually fully change. So, and they said, we're gonna, in our time here, we're gonna do the most with this 4%. And that means we need endless practice and endless art to be able to then change. And that play, I'm sure, changed people's lives. And a man maybe goes, maybe my prejudice is wrong, or her view, a woman's view is like, maybe this is a little bit distorted. And I'm open to that. And that's why I love being an artist on top of being sensitive, is hopefully we create things that we can shift people's perspectives into a deeper, more rooted and more universal culture, that everyone is invited to the conversation.
Beautiful. I love that. Everyone and their vulnerability in their heart is invited to the conversation, and it's through those doorways that we can meet and change personally and also collectively.
Yes.
Such a beautiful and rich conversation. I feel very blessed in that you have given a lot, not just with your words, but with your energy and your expression and your resonance. And so I feel like my whole being learnt as a sensitive, for all those sensitive watching, right? I'm not just learning from Jamie, from my awareness, but also from my body and my cells and my nervous system and my aura. I'm receiving this in so many different ways, and I know I'll go away and I will also be changed. And I know I'm already thinking differently about certain things about being a sensitive from this conversation. And I almost wish we had another hour, because now I want to dive into being creative. And maybe I'll just have to dial you up again another time. But I wanted to invite you, can you tell people where they can find you, Jamie? If people are interested in learning more about you, where do they find you?
It's so interesting. I've been working with my designer. I've been redoing my website because I've been a jack of all trades for most of my life, which is, a producer, a director, an actor, a teacher, a voice teacher, an acting coach, a men's coach, and all of that. And I've kind of streamlined it to being one thing at a time, so it keeps it really clear. So just jamiewollrab.com, and that's JamieWollrab.com. I'm building it, and it's going to have my voice work and also my creative work. But right now I'm launching a men's work. So if you see the page, just know that there's so much more, and we'll have a a portal to my old site. Facebook, more than I love anyone through you that would like to find me there. Instagram, it's just at Wollrab, and I have my own studios through my artistic work at Jamie Wollrab Studios. And how else could they find me? I think that's in my email is jamie.wollrab@gmail.com. And I love engaging, and I try to get back within 24 hours, and I get excited. I get lit up. Do you know anything about human design?
A little bit, yeah. Actually, I had lunch once with the guy who wrote all the books.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm a generator, so it's so funny when I go away to have my alone time. I'm off on my Harley and my motorcycle, but the more I do, the more relaxed I get. It's very strange. And my partner is a projector, so she actually needs to lie down and do nothing. So we're actually a really amazing team that way. So I actually really enjoy people reaching out to me, and I coach, and I still help people one-on-one, and I'll be having a voice workshop starting in the fall, late October into November. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I highly recommend, I've done Jamie's voice workshop classes, and you can do them online wherever you are around the world. And not only do
The
you
voice sounds amazing, by the way. I was so like,
oh yeah, I get a little
student.
I get maybe a star. Yeah, I'm falling in, my voice has really changed and continues to change, and I look forward to having a conversation with you about that. But Jamie's classes, your voice is the way you touch everyone in the world and everyone in your world. And if you want to have a bigger reach in the world, your voice needs to embody who you are. And so if a way of being introduced to Jamie's work is to take one of his voice workshop classes, and he announces them on social media when they're coming out, and you can also email him and he'll tell you about them. The one thing I want to say about Jamie is that even one class with Jamie or one meeting with Jamie will generate change in your life, and you'll go away and it will show up in your world. And that's what I think a master teacher is, someone who just one interaction. And I'm not putting wind in your sails. I'm saying that because
I'll take the wind. I'll take it.
Because I've experienced that, and I only talk very genuinely about things that I believe in and know are effective. So yeah, thank you, Jamie. And if you've enjoyed this conversation about sensitivity and men and dancing through, talking about something that's very liminal and how we bring it into the world, and you'd like to learn more about being sensitive, come and join me in my Sacred Sensitivity program. It starts on September 19. And what we're going to do is explore, name, cultivate, and map who you are as a sensitive, because I believe sensitivity is unique in some ways to each individual while also having some very common expressions. And so we're going to build a map of who you are as a sensitive, and then empower you in your kind of sensitive, build you a nice protective aura, cultivate breath. And most importantly, what I want to do is help you go over that edge and into the world as a sensitive, because one of the things that I see with sensitives, and I see hundreds of people in this position, is that you have a dream, a vision, a creative quest, a calling, a teaching, an offering, and then you get to the edges to taking everything you've cultivated into the world, and you falter because you don't know how to do that and be sensitive or as a sensitive, and it can be scary. So if you've got a gift, a vision, and you want to shine it in the world, come and join me in Sacred Sensitivity. You can find details on my Instagram and my website, and all of this will be in the information for this interview.
I can't recommend Myree enough. I just want to praise you, is that what you're offering is so important, and not many people talk about sensitives. And when I was reading the email about what we were talking about, the topic today, I was so moved by that. And I think that sometimes people don't talk about their sensitivity. and a way to in the way that you cultivate your own sensitivity, and that you have and you're creating a space for people who have sensitivity to have a place in the world and a path, and you embody that. And I just, you're doing God's work. It feels really, really great.
Thank you, Jamie. And so I'm gonna play with that dance we're doing about receiving, and I'm just gonna take that in as through my sensitive pleasure soul channel. So beautiful. I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the sensitives, whether it's this week or in the future, that are enjoying this video. I hope it's been meaningful for you and it's helped you to name and map and understand a little bit more about who you are as a sensitive. It's also giving you tips and suggestions of ways that you can empower yourself as a highly sensitive being, and that you can shine and share your light, your vision, and your offerings in the world. Jamie, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you, everybody. See you again.